So hey there friends, Ken here, your Thrifty Apprentice, and in today's video we are going to be doing a couple of things. First things first, we're going to be doing sort of an overview, a review of the Roman Szmal's full pan professional watercolor paints. Now, some of these paints I got as a donation that was sent to the studio. The other part of these paints I actually ordered off of Jackson's Art, and we'll be talking about that a little bit further down the line in the video. We are also taking a look at a beginner targeted watercolor sketchbook by an artist from overseas who has a huge Instagram presence, Bindi Desai. I've also decided that during this review overview video, I'm also going to include a demo. Now, during the demo, what I'm going to be talking to you guys about is sort of my perspective, my opinion, just my thought process on finding, discovering, and developing your own art style so that it sets you apart from each and every other artist out in this wonderful world of art creation. So without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the demo first, and then we'll follow up with some thoughts on the paint, the watercolor sketchbook, and stay tuned for a giveaway announcement. Watercolor painting is one of the most fluid and expressive forms of art, yet finding your own style can often feel like an exclusive pursuit. But in reality, the journey to discovering your own artistic voice is a process of learning, experimenting, and even embracing the works of others. So let's take a little dive, and I'm going to share with you my thoughts on finding your own artistic style. To start, it's important to recognize that every artist begins with a foundation. Understanding the different styles of watercolor that already exist is key. Whether it's the delicate washes of a traditional landscape or the vibrant boldness of abstract expressionism, these various approaches to watercolor can offer invaluable insight. Learning these techniques doesn't mean copying them, but rather giving you the tools to shape your own artistic vision. Experimenting with various styles helps you discover what feels natural to you. You may find yourself drawn to the soft blending of colors in a botanical study, or maybe it's the raw textured approach used in modern watercolor art. The beauty of learning from different techniques is that you don't have to settle for one style. You can mix and match, taking bits from what resonates with you and leaving behind what doesn't. Learning from other artists is equally important. When you observe other painters, whether in person or through online tutorials or by attending a workshop, you open yourself to new ways of seeing and thinking. It's through this shared experience that you begin to see things you might not have noticed on your own. Maybe you discover a technique that aligns perfectly with your goals, or perhaps you identify methods that you don't connect with. That's just as valuable, because it narrows down what feels right to you. As you work through the discovery process, you'll also find the tools you use, like your paints, brushes, and paper, play a very vital role in your style. Watercolor is a medium known for its unpredictability and its potential for both control and chaos all at the same time. Some artists prefer the soft, translucent qualities of high-quality watercolor pigment, while others may embrace the more spontaneous, rough textures created with student-grade paints. What's important is recognizing that you don't have to follow trends or use what everyone else is using. Each artist has their own preference. Some might like using large, flat brushes for sweeping landscapes, while others might gravitate towards fine tip brushes for intricate details. The beauty of watercolor is that it gives you the freedom to experiment with these tools, and through that experimentation, you'll discover what works for you. Your style is not confined to one type of brush or paper or palette. It's an evolving blend of what feels comfortable with you. And remember, your style will evolve over time. It's not something that happens overnight. Your journey as a watercolor artist is dynamic and ever processing, progressing, shaped by practice, learning, and growth. As you refine your techniques, Try new methods and experiment with different materials. You'll notice subtle shifts in your work. And that's the point. Your personal style emerges organically through your experiences and the choices you make. Another important thing to embrace is the diversity in the way we paint. Two artists will approach watercolor differently, and that's what makes art so beautiful. We all have different backgrounds, preferences, and interpretations of the world. What one artist finds inspiring, another might overlook. What one creates as a bold splash of color might resonate differently with another. The diversity in watercolor painting is a reflection of our individual experiences and perspectives. And as you find your style, it's crucial to remember that your art won't appeal to everyone, and that's okay. Just as you may not connect with every artist or every painting style, others will be drawn to what you create. Your unique perspective is your strength. Embrace it. Your journey to discovering your style is not about pleasing everyone. It's about being true to your creative self. So, as you embark on this journey of discovering your own watercolor style, be patient with yourself. Draw inspiration from others, experiment with various techniques, and allow your personal experiences to shape your work. Remember, there's no right way to paint. There's only your way. And in the world of watercolor, that's the most beautiful discovery you can make. Keep painting, keep exploring, and let your style unfold. Friends, we have the Roman Szmal's Aquarius line of watercolors. Now, I have two different sets that I'm going to be kind of going through with you all today. This is a Polish, a brand of watercolors. They are made in Poland, and Roman Szmal's is still very much alive and well. Now, the very first set that's going to be included today is the five color mixing set. Now, this was the original set that was sent into the studio by some sponsors. And you can see here that it is just a generic sleeve type boxing. It's got some watercolor graphics on the front with the Roman Szmal's logo, the name of the watercolor line, which is Aquarius. The side of the box is going to give you the address, the telephone number, as well as the website. The opposite side lets you know that the watercolors are made in Poland. And on the very back of the box, you're going to get a digitized swatch of the 5 colors that come inside this box. There is a lemon yellow, an Aquarius red, ultramarine light, an Aquarius green, and a caput mortuum. And we'll go through the pigment numbers for those in just a minute. The second set that we're looking at is, of course, also a part of the Aquarius line because it's just the overall name. The information presented is pretty much the same. You're going to get made in Poland, you're going to get the company address, website, as well as the telephone number, then a digitized swatch of all of the colors that are included in this particular set. Now, this one has an Aquarius yellow, Hansa yellow medium, nickel azo yellow, natural sienna light, quinacridone burnt sienna, cypress burnt umber, quinacridone magenta, quinacridone red, fire red, ultramarine blue, phthalo blue, and hooker's green. So this particular set I ordered myself, and I did compare the colors that came in this set against the set that came into the studio sponsored. That way I could make sure I had a wide variety of colors when I got around to talking about the particular paints. Now, as you can see, again, cardboard sleeves. The paints come inside a cardboard insert. They are full pans, and those pans are wrapped in like a silver paper. Now, I've thrown the boxes or the cardboards away at this particular point because I have taken all of the pans and put them in the order in which I would like to paint with them inside of a palette here. And I will add, I ordered an open stock buff titanium just because I was really in the buff and I wanted to add it to this particular set. So this is the format that the paints are going to come in. You have a full pan. Now this is a honey-based paint. So if you live in a humid or a hot climate, just keep in mind that these may give you a little trouble. They may travel if you're trying to take them on the go with you. And when I say travel, I mean kind of spill out of the pan, especially if they should do like any melting from the heat. So that's just something to keep in mind if you live in a humid climate. The paints really kind of put me in the mind of the way white night paints are presented, but I did do a little research and found out that, you know, these are definitely much more on the affordable side, even more so than white nights, although white nights is pretty reasonable. And that this particular company offers a few more rare and hard to find pigments than the white night line does. So that's kind of the realm that I would say that the paints fall in. Now, this is definitely a professional line of paint, and we are about to jump into the swatching and the testing that I did in just a moment. Now, right off, I'll tell you that this was not a set that I had to pre-wet in order to paint with. In all honesty, I did not pre-wet it once. I went directly from water bucket to pan to paper with these. They re-wet super well. As far as consistency goes, each pan was filled to the exact same level almost. I mean, I couldn't tell any difference in that. And I did remove the metal tray from this palette. This is one of Christy Rice's palettes, just in case you were wondering. I have quite a few of these that I'm using to kind of jazz up my watercolor collection. But with that being said, no initial problems with the paints. So I decided that I would do some swatching and some color testing. I swatched them out in the Color Diary, which is 100% cotton watercolor paper. They really took well. I'll tell you what I noticed right off as I swatched them, that there was definitely a bit of a shift in saturation from wet to dry with some of the colors, especially the earth tones. But I'll tell you later how I combated that as I was painting. So I swatched each one of them out, did an opacity test in the swatching, labeled the swatches, and then transferred the pigment number to each color swatch. Now, the pigment numbers are presented on the box, but the light fast rating is not, which I thought was really surprising for a professional watercolor paint. And of course, there is no information printed on the pans. So in order for me to get any of the light fast information, I had to go do some digging around the internet, and come to find out that the paints are judged on the blue wool scale, and most of the ones included in either or of these sets were ranking 7 to 8 on the blue wool scale. But we're going to talk about that a little bit more as well. So I'm going to run through the pigment numbers here. I understand that for a lot of artists, this does not matter. And if not, then, you know, a lot of the rest of this video will probably be for you. But in this particular point, I am going to insert a little information about pigments before I move on. So I didn't transfer buff, but we all know that buff is going to have a pigment white mixed into it. There's a Fire Red, which is a PR 254, Aquarius Red, which is a PR 214, a Quinn Red PV 19, and a Quinn Magenta PR 122. All single pigment reds. I did not find many issues with any of these pigments when I was doing the research on handprint.com. The yellows are the Nickel Azo Yellow PY 150, Hansa Yellow Medium PY 74, Lemon Yellow PY 61, and Aquarius Yellow PY 168. Now, the thing I did discover about the yellows, again, all single pigments, so really good as far as single pigment colors go. But I did discover in my research that both the Hansa Yellow Medium PY 74 and the Aquarius Yellow PY 168 can do some shifting, especially when they're diluted and watered down. So I do think that's something to be noted, because the Aquarius Yellow comes in the 5-color mixing set, and the Hansa Yellow Medium comes in the bigger set that I had. So the 5-color mixing set, you know, no, I'm sorry, the 5-color mixing set has the lemon yellow in it. Neither one of those are in the 5-color set. So I do believe that all of the pigments in the 5-color set are pretty strong, reliable, and stable colors, which you guys heard me say before. You typically get that with the smaller sets. Now you're going to get to mixed pigments here when you get to your green, because they are convenience greens. You have a Hooker's, that's a PY150 mixed with PB27, which is your pigment number for Prussian blue. So, you know, Prussian has its issues. So that Hooker's green may have some issues. It's just something to note about that particular pigment. Aquarius green, which is a PY150, PBR25, and a PB29. So it's a trio. So, you know, but what I did find is that even with those being more than one pigment, they did not mix to make mud easily at all. Actually, these were some of the cleanest colors I've used, surprisingly enough. Phthalo Blue, PP15 Coating 3. You have both an ultramarine light and an ultramarine, both being PB29, which we know is pretty stable indeed. Your natural sienna is your PY43, which is in the same arena as your PY42 for your yellow ochres. You have a Quinn burnt sienna, which is a PO48, which wasn't a pigment I was familiar with, so I really had to go look it up. Not too bad as far as light fast ratings are concerned. There's a Cypress burnt umber, which is a PBR7, which is a pretty reliable pigment. And then your Caput Mortuum, which is a PR102, which again, I had to go look it up, a variation in the same family as your PR101, those particular reds. So no major light fast issues other than the PY74 and the PY168, which could shift a bit in your paintings over time, especially if diluted down based on the research that I did. So there's kind of a quick overview of the pigments that are included. Of all of these colors that I have, only 2 are mixed pigments. Everything else is a single pigment color. And when I tell you they performed like they were single pigment, I was really kind of impressed with the paints overall. So I did some mixing testing here. A couple of color wheels. I did some mixing to see if I could get some neutrals. And then of course I did a flow test. The flow test was actually really surprising because some colors flowed a lot better than others. And I'm guessing maybe some formulations may be different based on the pigment that was used. I mean, I don't work for Roman Szmals, so I can't say that for definite, but it just seems to me like the formulation on some colors was a little different simply because some of them flowed so well. And then too, you do have to keep in mind that they could be attributed to the actual pigment itself. So here I use the lemon yellow, Fire red, and the phthalo blue. Got some really clean secondary colors, nothing mixed to make mud. And in the second color wheel, I use the Hansa yellow medium, the Quinn magenta, and the regular ultramarine blue. And again, very clean, saturated, beautiful colors that held up with no mud. And they haven't done much shifting here. This is a couple of days old. But of course, I haven't exposed this to any sunlight either. Now, I wanted to try to mix some neutrals, and this is where I started to get a little surprised. So here we have a phthalo blue. Both of these are phthalo blue. Now, no, this is phthalo blue and ultramarine. So you have phthalo blue and ultramarine both being mixed with the same burnt sienna. And the neutrals that I was achieving seemed to have a really green base and undertone. Now, that wasn't too surprising from the mixture with the phthalo blue, but it was kind of surprising with the mixture from the ultramarine. So that pigment orange and that blue together, because orange being in the yellow family, and brown, of course, being a desaturated orange, did mix to give more of a green undertone neutral. So then I did the phthalo blue and the ultramarine and mixed them with the burnt umber, which is a PBR7, thinking that I'm gonna get cooler shades of neutrals. Well, again, with the phthalo blue, which is a PB15 Coating 3, and I'm green shade, I did get green undertones with those neutrals. However, when I mix the ultramarine with the burnt umber, PB29 with the PBR7, I got the standard neutral that I'm used to getting. And I was able to get 2 variations of that particular neutral by changing the amount of one color or the other that I put in the mixture when I was doing it. So again, overall, stable colors. I do say play around with them. Do yourself a color mixing chart. That way you can see the different range of colors that you can mix, especially if you're only starting with one set. Now, I'm going to break this down and tell you the price of both sets individually, my recommendation on those, and we are going to be announcing a giveaway for an actual starter set a little bit later on in the video. But what I want to do with you first is do a lift test so we can just kind of see how the paints lift away from the paper as I show you that they react really well to salt. Absolutely no issue there. And I really love the way those earth tones kind of flow together and blended together in a really super wet wash. One thing that I discovered about these paints is that they blend when you want them to blend, but even in a live that I was doing the other day, I made mention to the viewers that I like the fact that you can lay them down in each other and the colors will stay separate and bright and not dull down if you don't do too much mixing. So I was really happy with that. Here you see that we have granulation test on the ultramarine blue. Very beautiful granulation in that. And I did notice that the ultramarine light granulated really well also. So let's just, I'm using a scrubber that's not really meant for watercolor paper, but I always tend to grab it, so that's what I'm using. And here we are just going to try to lift back to the white of the paper. I would probably get better lifting if I was using a napkin or kitchen towel. I think that's what some people call it. I think that's right. But there's a little staining here, just a little. There's a little staining in the reds. That is like your fire red. There was a little staining with the Quin magenta. There's even a little staining over here in the blues. So you can get back for some highlights, but there's also a bit of staining with the colors as well. And there's a lot of different ones mixed together. So I'll just let you guys see that once more. Okay, all right. Those are the tests that were done with the paints. And now let's just take a look at some of the actual paintings that I did with them. I have to tell you, I painted quite a few illustrations with this paint preparing for this video, really trying to get a good feel for what I thought of the paints. Now, the most recent painting was this watercolor calendar painting that we did earlier on a live. It was actually done today. I think it's Monday, March 4th, or Monday, March 3rd, Monday, March 4th. I don't know, I'm losing track of my days, but it was done earlier on a YouTube live if you want to go check this out. But this is, if I'm not mistaken, a cellulose paper. Is it supposed to be 100% cotton? I'm not exactly sure. I'll check in a second and see here. This is a grabby watercolor calendar. I do not believe that this is 100% cotton. I think this is cellulose paper. And here I do see a bit of a shift, but not once it dried, but not much of one at all. So again, I really do think the colors between these two sets have some pretty stable pigments in it. Now, I've also done a couple of quick illustrations. I wanted to break open this little sketchbook that I made and start painting in it. So I did this little rocky water scene. And this is when I really started to enjoy the paints, although this was not the second illustration that I did. The second and third illustration that I did with these, I'm going to show you in this book in just a moment. This was maybe the fourth one. This was the third one. This is 1 and 2. This is 3. This was the fourth illustration, which we did in today's video. What I discovered between these, as you can see, they have a bit of a similarity, is I was trying to see how the greens was going to work in different landscapes. And I was not disappointed. I love the way the paint's handled. Again, I'll say I think these are some of the cleanest paints I've used. They layered really well. And even with the two yellows that I was mentioning earlier may shift a bit when diluted, you can layer these paints. You can glaze them, and they glaze super, super well. And they actually hold their form. The color holds its form. I was really impressed with that. Now, I might not have necessarily been impressed with my actual painting, but the paints themselves was not the problem at all. Here is where I was showing you guys or telling you guys that you can blend those colors and they'll stay separate if you wanted them to. I experienced it, actually, I used that sort of magenta sky in all three of these and was able to achieve that. Love the way that they handled. All right, so now I saved this particular one to show you last because this is the sketchbook that is going to be included in the giveaway with the starter set of Roman Szmal paints. And I'm going to tell you guys how to enter that and how you could possibly win very shortly. This sketchbook is Bindi Desai sketchbook. Bindi is an artist overseas. She has a really huge Instagram following and presence. I discovered her through Paint Crush, which is Christy Rice's company. I do believe that Christy may have collaborated with her in some shape, form, or fashion for this sketchbook, if nothing else other than to guide her in the right manufacturing direction. But I think 100% of this sketchbook is Bindi's idea. What I really love about the sketchbook is that it's spiral bound on the top versus on the side. I really do like that. To me, it just gives a little bit more versatility to the sketchbook. It is hardcover. It has a beautiful design on the front of it. She's an amazing loose watercolor floral artist. And I tend to gravitate towards people who paint differently than I do. I really love her loose florals. I really love Christy loose florals, which is why I follow them. The back, again, hardcover, so you got plenty of protection for your pages, and you're going to get the website as well as her Instagram handle on the back. All right. When you open the sketchbook up, on the inside, it's a little unusual from some sketchbooks you may have run across because you are going to get some a color wheel, giving you both your warm and cool. And then you're going to get some color recipes that kind of gives you the ratios for mixing some other colors. And I've never seen this in a sketchbook. I think that it is a really great idea. And it also leans to the fact that this sketchbook is really more kind of maybe your beginner, intermediate watercolor artist targeted product, okay? On the back of this page, you're going to get a picture of Bindi and just sort of a hello letter, sort of a thank you for buying the sketchbook and wishing you a happy creating. I won't read through that. Now, let's talk about the actual paper in the sketchbook. I will be very honest. This is probably along the medium level of watercolor papers for me. It is 140 pounds. It's not sure. I don't think it's a cotton paper. I think let's see. Yes, it is. It's 140 pounds, 100% cotton, cold pressed texture, 24 sheets that has the color wheel in the recipe page. And the pages are 8.5 by 11, so you are getting a standard size. And this is the one that you'll be winning. So I just had to pull that out just to make sure of all of the information. So it is 100% cotton. I want to be honest, it's about middle of the road, 100% cotton for me. It's definitely not the best 100% cotton paper I've ever used, but it's worlds above any cellulose paper. So I do think that it is a great place for the beginner, intermediate artist to start. Now, the paper takes ink really well. Here's a little illustration I did back during Inktober. Here's another one I did after Inktober maybe, but again, I love the way that the paper takes inks. I love the fact that it is perforated so that you can actually remove the page if you decide you want to frame some of the artwork that you do. Now, here are the two illustrations that I did on this paper with the Roman Szmal's paints. I wasn't very pleased or happy with myself as far as the way that these came out, which is why this was the first demo I shot and it didn't make it. This was the second demo I shot and it didn't make it. So this was the third demo I shot, and finally this is the one that made today's video. Not that I'm extremely pleased with any of them, but they gave me great painting experience. This paper has sort of a different type of texture stamped on the surface of it. It really puts me in the mind of Master's Touch. If you've ever used Master's Touch, which is a house brand by Hobby Lobby, if you've ever used that paper, it kind of puts me in the mind of the texture that's stamped on that paper, except for this is cotton, so it's more absorbent than that paper is. And I did find that it took a little bit more wear and tear as far as things like the back of your aquarelle brush or like credit card scrapers. If you use things like that, it took that well, and it also took several different types of media well. I've used ink on this, watercolors, gouache, watercolor markers. So there were a lot of different products that I was able to use on this paper and still achieve a recognizable result that I was moderately satisfied with. Now here I did a wine glass. I was trying to emulate strawberry lemonade in there. A lot to be desired about the painting, but I really do like the texture I was able to achieve on the table. Yeah, just the paper allowed me to layer, and I really love the fact that the paints are so glazable and transparent. So yeah, not too bad. So here was the second one that I did, and outside of the fact that I don't really like the way my foreground came out, as far as the rest of this painting is concerned, it was really kind of easy peasy. I really love the ease in mixing those colors and the fact that they will stand up next to each other without blending too much if you don't want them to. I just felt like they were really controllable, which probably has a lot to do with the fact that some of them flow really well and some of them really just kind of sit on the paper. But overall, my friends, if I had to say, I definitely like the Roman Szmal paints. I definitely recommend the Roman Szmal paints. I know this review or this overview was not as in-depth as some reviews that I do, but hopefully I've given you a pretty good basis to run with as far as the paints and the information that comes along with them. Now, if I had to put these on a star scale of 1 to 5, I would probably put these paints at somewhere around a 4.5. And the only reason I don't have them listed as 5 stars is because of availability. The only place I've been able to find the paints is Jackson Art. Now, I will be sure to put the links for these in the video description in case anyone is interested. But here is the listing for Roman Szmal Aquarius Watercolor Full Pan Starter Set. That's this set of 5. It has 5 stars, 68 reviews, and it is listed for $16.20 plus shipping. So that is, like I was saying earlier, they're definitely in the same range as White Knights, but I feel like they are even more affordable as far as professional paints go. And I feel like the pigments, when I compared these, are kind of glanced over my White Knight swatch sheets from both the pens and the tubes. I feel like the pigments that are listed are more stable or more reliable in this particular brand of paint than, say, like White Knights. Not that White Knights is a bad place to start. I really do like the White Knight paints. If I had to choose between the two, though, this would definitely be my choice. All right, let's see if I can find the Aquarius set really quick. Okay, so here are the Aquarius paint sets. This is going to be I'm trying to find the exact one that I ordered. That's this one. 12 colors, full pans. This is the Kowalski Master Set of 12, $57.70, which I still think is amazing pricing for 12 full pans of almost single pigment professional quality paint. Yeah, in this particular 12 pan set, only one of the colors is dual pigment, and that's the convenience hooker's green. Everything else is a single pigment color. So I just think that they are pretty amazing paints. They have warmed their way into my heart, and they're in my top 5. They have pushed another brand on out the way. These are definitely in my top 5 picks of professional grade paints that I've had the chance of experiencing or using. And as far as the sketchbook is concerned, it's definitely one that I would recommend. Now, this sketchbook I recommend for beginners or intermediate artists. I'll put the link for the sketchbook in the video description as well. Sketchbook is a little expensive. If I'm not mistaken, it's about 40 bucks if I'm not mistaken. So that's something that you may want to give consideration, but it's supporting a small business. So there's something to consider as well. All right, friends, sorry if you guys heard the motorcycle outside with all of the noise. There is all of the information that I have on the Roman Szmal's paints, as well as the Bindi Desai 100% cotton watercolor sketchbook. Now, if you are interested in winning or participating in the giveaway so that you can be a part of the random drawing, it's very simple. You need to check the video description for the Instagram link. That's right. You have to go over to Instagram. Check the video description for the Instagram link. Click on the Thrifty Apprentice Defyant Art Instagram link. When you get over to the page, at the top of the page, you are going to see a pinned post with the Roman Szmal's picture and the word giveaway across it. Just click on that post and follow the instructions to enter. You're gonna make sure that you're following the Defyant Art Instagram page, because we do check that. Like the post. You can share the post if you want to. That'll get more people involved. But make sure you're following the Defyant Art Instagram page. Like the post. And then just leave me a comment letting me know what you think you're going to paint with these paints in this sketchbook. I would really like to know what you think your first thing would be painting with this paint set and this sketchbook. So friends, there you have it. That is all for me today. Thank you so very much. Don't forget to sprinkle a little love if you found anything enjoyable about this video, and give it a thumbs up. You can share in case you think anyone else wants to know the information on the Roman Szmal paints and the Bindi Desai sketchbook. I'm going to get that name right. You can leave a comment. Let me know, have you used the paints? Have you used the sketchbook? What did you think of them? Let me know what you thought of today's video. Feel free to leave any comment, adding anything that you think will be helpful for the viewing audience. Yes, love all that, love all of that. If you're new to the channel and returning and you haven't subscribed, please do hit the subscription button and the notification bell so that you know when we go live and when we upload. You can check the video description for all of the relevant links. Check out the Defyant Art website. Check us out on Palm Street, on Instagram, on Facebook. You can even check out the Facebook group, Paints, Pencils, Pastels, and Markers, if you want a wonderful place to hang out with other artists. And remember, as I tell you guys at the end of every single video, just keep creating.